Good afternoon, everyone. It's Leslie from the Pilates Center of Pittsburgh. This is probably going to be one of the last days I get to creatively work outside, so I'm really taking advantage of that. The leaves are falling on me, and I left the floor unswept, so hopefully you'll see a lot of yellow on the ground once we're down there. So this project, this new little bit that I'm putting out in our media right now, and I'm going to be working on bit by bit through the next few months, is actually for dancers. So just a few bits of information. I teach the Pilates method and the gyrokinesis method at my space, but I also am an adjunct faculty member at Point Park University. So that work is very important to me because my experiences with dance really led me to explore movement, continue to explore movement, and basically offer wellness solutions for dancers. So what this little media project is that I'm going to answer questions from dancers about corrections they receive in class often, or confusing bits of information about movement, things that they might hear all the time in a typical dance class setting, and things that maybe drive us a little crazy. Okay, so I got a heap of feedback from my class last week at Point Park, so I'm doing this project to serve their needs. I find my young students, my young people, they're ages 18 to 22. They are so talented. They have the world, just literally waiting for them to figure out where their work is going to go. And so this is meant to help dancers' cross-training needs as well as get a conversation started. Okay, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can find me online at this business's website, thepilatescenter.com, or you can reach out to me through school, through Point Park as well. All right, so the questions that we're going to answer over the next few weeks, just to kind of give you a peek on what this is engage but don't grip. Don't sit in your hips. Don't do too much, but just enough. Drop the leg while, drop the leg while extending the leg upwards. Drop the hip while extending the leg upwards. Relax your shoulders. What to do with your shoulders? Be strong, not tense. Pull up, one of my favorites. Work from the back of the leg. More breath. Shift your weight farther. Over muscling something. So you can hear some repetitive things in there. Today we're going to address pull up. Okay? Again, and this is really meant for my students' working needs, but I'm happy to offer it to anybody who can benefit from it. Helping dancers and training dancers is one of my most favorite dream jobs. So beginning to do more work in that area. Okay, so we're going to talk about pull up, and then in the weeks following you can request things from me, or we'll look forward to exploring those topics, right? They're pretty good ones. What does pull up mean? Pull up means to create length through the body, specifically the torso, as compared to compression. Compression, or collapsing in our body, or gripping somewhere, is the opposite of length. Okay? So the first thing I'd like you to kind of do is I'd like you to figure out what supports you. Let's go ahead, just have a real short conversation about what is actually supportive. So I'm going to have you get down on the floor, okay? And what's going to support me is the center back of my hips, my sacrum joint. I need to get the weight bearing of that part really clear. And then I'm going to deepen my middle back into the mat. And then arrange my shoulders. Try to get my shoulders to show up before my head and neck. That's a tricky thing, okay? And then my head's on the ground. Now, frequently we might have places of our back, right? We're talking to really the back of the body. We might have places in our back that is, they're tight, or it is already compressed. We can't just unthink compression, right? We can't just poof
think about it in our brain and then it magically happens. We do need to do something for that. So the way to get something to be uncompressed, leading us to being able to pull up to create length, to be able to be uncompressed, we have to show our body where there is support. Okay? So you can have your legs easily bent, right? Or you're welcome to extend the legs. But I like you to take a second and have your hands on the front of the hip bones and identify where the hip joint is, right? As compared to the top of the hip here. Okay, so just in between that top of the hip and the front hip joint, there's going to be a lot of soft tissue here. So I'm going to have you just inhale and spend a few breaths and a few moments, minutes really, releasing the front of the hip. So you're making this area of your abdomen, you're making this really broad, really supple is one of my favorite words and actions in the kinesis method. Learning to move through supple centers. Okay, so but we want to adopt this idea just in the support. So essentially, you're going to be grounding your back body. Okay, remember that the shoulders rest on top of the middle of you. So if you're doing good in your hips, but you feel like your back is tense, sometimes you have to put something underneath you in order to really get your back to, cooperate. Okay, so once you establish that your back is supporting you, spend at least, 5 to 10. On a really tight day, it might take me 20 minutes to actually get everything open and available for my body here. Because we're really talking about your whole body from top to head, right? So definitely the head to the tailbone, okay? So 20 minutes is pretty thorough. Sometimes it's just 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But once you have the back of your body established, I'm going to ask you again, kind of quick cutting the video. We're going to bring ourselves into a comfortable place through the legs that you can bear weight through the back of the hips well, and you can get the back of the ribs, your shoulders, and you're lining your head up. I'd like you to just simply lift one leg off the floor an inch or so and practice pushing into where your body is supported. So anchor, ground into. So we have 2 joints through the back of the hips. We have our entire back except for the lower spine. My middle back area, I've got my whole upper body all the way through my head. So that feels pretty good. Okay, so turn sideways and let's transfer it to standing up. All right, so coming with me. I had to test my heights of things. Quick switch of the tripod. All right, so you're up now, right? So we're nicely up. So pulling up is a couple things. Pulling up is that we're going to want to anchor in our body somewhere and somehow to be able to create length. So you'll notice a couple key areas to be able to create length through the hips and then definitely through the middle of your body, the waistline. So you can kind of tell between the shoulders to the waist and then the shoulders to the hips. That's really that's very visible when somebody is teaching you dance, or movement art. Okay, so if you press into your whole foot, I bet if you just shift your body's weight around a little bit, you can kind of tell if you can put your body center in between the front of the hip joints and the back of the hip joints. We want to go right through the middle because that is going to be the most supportive to our bodies. So I'll show you that sideways. If I fall back a little bit too far, I'm going to overstretch the front of my hip, causing compression around the back of my hip and my back. If I err too far forward, I'm going to be having nothing showing up here, and I'm going to be predominantly using the muscles in the front of me. Okay? So I want to bear weight I want to feel myself settle right into that back sacrum joint. And I also want to feel that my body is balancing right through my 2 hip joints in the front. Okay? Now lengthen. The only way to get something to go up is to let it go down first. So that's the first principle you learn in a plie. When you're learning to dance and you learn about release, something actually goes down in your body before you can pull something up. Okay? So it's really that simple. So this is your body's center. We have to put this down on the legs, in the ankles in the feet into the floor. And then if we just lightly reach through the top of your head joint, you will be pulling up, right? So I'll show me not doing it and then I'll show you doing it. I stand pretty much long through my body because that's what feels good in my hips and spine right now, but I'll show you not pulling up. So let me see if I can give a good example. So I'll go back and I'll contract my abdominals. All right, so hopefully you can see that I'm tucking my hip, which is really stretching on my hip flexors. It's pulling me a little tight there, and I am not pulling up. I can still balance, I can move around, but my back is funny. If I had to actually change the plane of movement that I was doing in any different direction as a dancer, I would be completely screwed though, okay? Because I can't function like that, right? So, hips, okay? Again, balancing hip weight bearing in the front and back, super important for ballerinas. Definitely classical dance, if you are upright and vertical, sometimes it really just gets slightly askew, depending on the facility of that dancer. Okay, so pull up is go this way, root into your lower body, find the balance here, and then add the very, very top of the spine. So you're creating a longer waistline, right? Pulling up is that my middle body is going upwards against the press of the low body. Okay? Now you can see I'm in my pulled up status of my muscles. I have got freedom of my legs. Oops. I've got freedom of my legs, but I can change through any plane of movement and I have that facility, right? It's all good. So I hope that wasn't too long. I know that it's a longer introduction, but that is the answer to the question, what does pull up mean? It is the opposite of compression and collapse. It means to create length, whether it's length from the hip to the spine or length from the spine all the way to the foot. Okay, you'll notice that across your middle body and across your hips really clearly. All right, see you next time.